Geographers identify regions of Earth's surface where population is clustered in spare regions. The concentration of the world's population can be displayed on a cartogram, which depicts the sizes of countries according to population. 2/3 of the world's inhabitants are clustered in 4 regions: East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Europe. Most of these inhabitants live near water or rivers with easy access to the ocean. In East Asia, most people live in China, the islands of Japan, the Korean Peninsula, and Taiwan. The People's Republic of China is the most populous country in land area. In South Asia, most people live in Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the island of Sri Lanka. Most of these people live in rural areas and work as farmers. The largest concentration of people in South Asia live along a 900-mile corridor from Pakistan through India and Bangladesh to the Bay of Bengal. Population is also concentrated by the plains of Indus, the Ganges River, and 2 coastlines, the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. In Southeast Asia, most people live in islands that lie between the Indian and Pacific Oceans, such as Indonesia. The largest population concentration is in the islands of Java, the Philippines, and Indochina. In Europe, most people live in Monaco and Russia. Most of these people live in cities and less than 10% work as farmers. The highest population concentration are near rivers and coalfields of Germany or Belgium, and high population concentrations are also in London and Paris. In Africa, the largest population concentration is in Nigeria, and most West Africans work in agriculture. In northeastern U.S. and southeastern Canada, the largest population concentration is in Boston, Virginia, the Great Lakes, and Chicago. There are sparsely populated regions that are too wet, dry, cold, or too high up for most people to live on. 20% of Earth's land is too dry and lack the water needed for agriculture. Although there are some natural resources such as oil reserves, on wet lands, the rain and heat drain the nutrients in the soil, which makes it hard for them to grow crops. On cold lands, it is way too cold to grow crops, and few animals can survive in that environment. Arithmetic density refers to the total number of objects in an area and lets geographers compare the number of people trying to live on a certain piece of land. Physiological density is the number of people supported by a unit area of arable land. Comparing physiological density and arithmetic density helps geographers understand the capacity of land to yield enough food for people. Agricultural density is the ratio of the number of farmers to the amount of arable land. MDCs have lower agricultural densities because technology and finance allow few people to farm extensive land areas and feed many people. Geographers compared a country's physiological and agricultural densities together to determine the relationship between population and resources in a country.
Population increase is when more people are born than those who die. Population decrease is when more people die than those who are born. There are 3 ways to measure population. First is crude birth rate, which is how many babies are born per 1,000 people in 1 year. Second is crude death rate, which is the total deaths per 1,000 living people in 1 year. Last is the natural increase rate, which is the rate that the population increases. To find the NIR, the CBR and the CDR are turned into percentages. The crude death rate is then subtracted from the crude birth rate. The world's population was stable up until the 1700s, which is when it began increasing. It is now currently growing by 1.2%. 95% of the world's natural increase happens in developing countries. For example, in sub-Saharan Africa, the NIR is 2.0, but in Europe it is in the negatives. Regional differences in the NIR means that most people are found in places that are unable to maintain them. CBR locates similarly as NIR, high in sub-Saharan Africa and low in Europe. Total fertility rate is the average amount of children a woman will have. The world's current TFR is currently 2.5. Crude death rate is actually lower in developing countries than developed countries. A distinctive bar graph indicating age and population is called a population pyramid. The graph will show women on the right and men on the left, and it goes up by fives starting at 0. For example, a population with lots of births and a lot of elderly deaths will be wider at the base and smaller at the top. The dependency ratio are people who are too young or too old to work. Last but not least is the sex ratio, which is the number of males per 100 females. Developed countries will have more women than men, but places such as India and China won't.
The demographic transition is a process of change in a society's population from high crude birth and death rates and low rate of natural increase to a condition of low crude birth and death rates, low rate of natural increase, and higher total population. The process consists of 4 stages. Stage 1, low growth. Very high birth and death rates produce virtually no long-term natural increase. No country remains in stage 1 and has at least moved on to stage 2. Throughout most of the period, people relied on hunting and gathering. When food was easily obtained, a region's population increased, but declined when people were unable to locate enough animals and vegetation nearby. Stage 2. High growth. Rapidly declining death rates and very high birth rates produce very high natural increase. During the period, there was the Industrial Revolution, which led to manufacturing improvements and healthier places to live. Then there was the Medical Revolution, which enabled more people longer, healthier lives. Stage 3, decreasing growth. Birth rates rapidly decline, death rates continue to decline, and natural increase rates begin to moderate. Stage 3 starts because people begin to have fewer children. During this period, more people live in cities or live in urban homes which cannot fit a big family, which reduce the number of children people have. Stage 4, low growth. Very low birth and death rates produce virtually no long-term natural increase and possibly a decrease. A country enters this stage when crude birth rates is a little bit higher than crude death rates. During this period, there is a lack of population growth, almost zero population growth. Declining birth rates. Crude birth rates have been declining rapidly since 1990. There are 2 strategies that have caused declining birth rates. Number 1 is lowering birth rates through education and health. Girls go to school, learn employment, and they gain more economic control over their lives. Good education can lead to good understanding of reproductive rights, so girls will start to pick better methods of contraception, meaning condoms or birth control. They have better healthcare programs, which teach them about STDs and child immunization, which promotes them to use contraception so they don't get pregnant or get an STD. Number 2 is lowering birth rates through contraception. This is really just them in highlighting the importance of diffusing contraceptions. Many use birth control programs. There's a lot of methods that you can use, not just birth control. Or because of religious reasons, people tend not to have a baby.
According to Thomas Malthus, the world's increasing population will outrun available food supplies. World overpopulation has been stripping a variety of resources other than food, such as water and energy. Other geographers don't agree because they say that the supply of resources is expanding and not fixed. India is the only major area that has to increase food supply in order to keep up with its growing population. Japan is a prime example of a declining population. The U.S. population growth is greatly dependent on immigration. Countries need growing populations so they have workers for jobs. In the future, many developed countries are expected to turn into stage 5 of the demographic transition. China and India have huge populations and together make up 1/3 of the world's population. But India's population is expected to pass China's by 2030.
4. The epidemic transition focuses on distinctive health threats in each stage of the demographic transition. Stage 1, pestilence and famine. This stage includes infectious and parasitic diseases, such as the bubonic plague that killed about half of Europe's population. This stage also includes high crude death rates. Stage 2. Receding pandemics. This stage consists of improvement in sanitation, nutrition, and medicine. There is a rapid decline of crude death rates, such as the cholera outbreak. Stage 3. Degenerative diseases. This stage has moderately declining crude death rates. It is the stage of infectious diseases associated with aging. Stage 4. Delayed degenerative diseases. Stage 4 is similar to Stage 3 of the diseases of aging like cardiovascular diseases or cancer. But older people's life expectancy is greater due to medical advances. It also has low but increasing crude death rates. Possible Stage 5. There are 3 different possible things for Stage 5 in the epidemic transition: evolution, poverty, and increased connections. Evolution can occur because of parasites getting used to old medicine. The last 2 may connect because of those in poverty having less connection to medical help and are easier to be affected.